I'd like to call the Plan Commission meeting to order on Wednesday, June 26, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. Janelle, can you please take roll call?
Bertle,
Here.
Bell,
Here.
Letzmacher,
Here.
Sample,
Here.
Kane,
Here.
Harth, here, and Olmstorg.
Here.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Bell,
Second.
second by Champeau. All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Carried. Is there a motion to approve the May 28th, 2024 meeting minutes? Any comments, corrections, deletions, questions?
I move we accept the minutes from May 28th.
Motion by Champeau,
Second.
second by Hart. All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public. Is anybody joining us tonight, like to address the Plan Commission? Janelle or Julie, do you want to review the correspondence?
Sure,
In
I
the
will.
packet?
So we did receive a letter from a developer who is interested in knowing if we'd like to work with them on housing. We have received several of these, and we do have a list of developers who have contacted us. So I don't know if you want to put this on the next agenda to discuss village properties and possible housing developments. Or what you want to do with the letter. It'd be page 13 of your packet. And then following that are some photos of the type of housing they built.
I would say that would be, an agenda item at an appropriate time for, the housing committee.
And then we did receive a letter from Mr. Tresivia's neighbor requesting that the operations be reviewed after 30 full days to determine if residential input has any suggestions or minor adjustments that could be made voluntarily by the Tresivias. And we did receive a letter from L. Johnson Swedish Restaurant and Boutique regarding one of the moratoriums. And that is all I've had. That all I received.
Okay. All right, then we will move to item number 6A, moratorium, the B3 district height limitations. Is there anything that you would like to say, Julie?
No, I'll wait till we open the public hearing and then I'll just do a summary.
Okay, well then I'll open the public hearing at 5:33.
Okay, so with the first moratorium, we had a plan commission member, bring up, should we be looking at height limitations in the B3 district? There's been some conversation, I think, in past meetings, not conversation, but comments we've heard, some of these are too big, it's changing the look of the downtown area. And we didn't want to rush through anything so the plan commission said, well, what about if we do a moratorium to allow us time to look at this and see if there should be changes? If there are changes, what would those changes be? So that's what the first moratorium is all about.
Okay. So is there anybody joining us tonight that would like to address? Yes,
Bjorn Johnson, Mal Johnson, so my father Lars, just here to answer any questions.
pertaining to your letter.
Yes.
Did anybody have any questions on the letter? All right. I guess we don't. Anybody else want to say anything? Okay, I will close the public hearing at 5:35 and have any plan commission discussion.
I have a comment. I read the L. Johnson letter and I agree they're great stewards of Sister Bay and always have been.
As a planning commission member, my main concern is in the historic overlay district, which is, I believe, B2. B3 downtown, I personally don't have a problem with the heights that are on the east side of Main Street. But the ones that are on the water concerns me because we don't want to be blocking off any view of the water or the park or anything like that. And we don't want to end up like a city where there's like a wall of high buildings on both sides of the street. That's just my concern. I agree with you.
I think the discussion tonight would be about the moratorium, not necessarily what we're going to do. This is to get us the time to figure out what we should do on there. I have some strong feelings about that. I had a realization on there, but I think that's for future meetings. We actually talk about what we want there. Not to pause it for 6 months and say, okay, let's make sure we have the development we want. I don't know that there's that much development coming down the pipeline in there, but at the same point, does 6 months delay really hurt us there? But I do look forward to the discussion about what it is we want there long term.
Well, in the downtown district, they would not be able to, if, let's say, a permit did come in, they would not be able to start until after Fall Festival, correct?
That's correct.
So this goes a little bit past that. And if we have the conversation, I mean, 6 months is the longest that it can go. So if we have those conversations and don't do a lot of changing or there's minor tweaking that we want, then we can also end it early.
6 months really isn't that long, because that last month is when it's going to the board. The meeting before that is you have your public hearing. The month before that, you're actually publishing it for that, giving legal notice. So really you have 3 months that you're working on.
Any other comments from the commission? A motion would be in order then.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Bell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kane. All those in favor respond with an aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Agenda item 6B. Moratorium in the B2 District Historic District Overlay. I will open the public hearing at 5:38.
Okay, so this is one we discussed too, where there's a couple things we talked about, and one was in that B2 district, what you can do is so limited that people aren't really able to put tourist or service oriented businesses down there. It's very restrictive to uses that have not been going in that area. It doesn't even allow for homes to be built. I think it allows like gas stations, I can't remember.
No, it does not.
Or the uses it allows have not been developing there, so we'd have to go back and look at the list we had looked at earlier. But the thought was, is there a way to preserve that historic area? There are some historic features there, there's some historic buildings there. And is there a way that we can allow people to do what the code currently wants, but give them an alternative to say, hey, if you don't want to do it the way the code is, here's an option. We would allow, the draft we reviewed would allow additional uses, provided they developed the property in a historic looking manner. It was just discussion. It's just something we talked about and said, hey, we need time to figure this out. Is this the route we want to go? So the decision was, let's propose a moratorium to give us time to see, do we want that to develop in a historically looking area? Do we want to give property owners other options on uses and design? They can still do what the code says now. This would be an overlay, is what we had discussed. So that's what we have on that one.
Anybody joining us would like to comment on the B2 moratorium? Yes.
Colin Doherty, I own Roots Inn and Kitchen, which is in the B2 area. Probably the most historic building, obviously in Sister Bay. We're on the National Historic Register. So I guess I'm kind of curious as to what's the incentive to the village to make this historic overlay district. You know, it seems that it's just gonna make things a little bit more restrictive. My building has always been a business purpose since 1902 when it was built. There's been various different businesses. Being in the oldest part and business district of the village, there's been changes that have been made for that particular business to thrive, whether it was the meat market, the shoe repair shop, the bake store, boarding house, an inn, a restaurant, whatever it is. I'm just kind of curious as what incentive it brings to the village to make this overlay.
I can answer that one. So first of all, it's not more restrictive. It's less restrictive because it gives them more options than they have right now. And the incentive is because of buildings like yours, where I think everybody agrees is beautiful back there. And there's other historic buildings back there that maybe not on a register, but the Razor House, for example, which is one of our first homes that was put in the villages back there. We have some historic walls. We have some older buildings back there. And rather than see everything torn down and built anew, the thought was, let's try and create a mock historic district that people would want to walk through and see the older looking buildings, the big trees. I don't know if you followed the drafts that we have put together earlier, but the intent was to make it look like a historic community back in that area. But it is, like I said, it's more options, because you can always do what you can do now. But then it also gave options that if you want to do something you can't do now, this is how we do it.
Sure. I guess my concern was like, if there's an expansion, like, it has to be done. Like particularly, obviously for my business to make it thrive better, like. How is this potentially gonna limit what I can do or not do?
Well, we don't know that yet because it hasn't been finalized. We saw one draft, just some ideas. And the ideas at that time were a building like that, yes, let them expand as long as they retain that historic look to it.
Sure.
But that has to be decided yet. That's what would be discussed over the next couple months.
And I guess for me, it just seems superfluous because I'm on a National Historic Register, right? So I already have obligations that I have to abide by. So potentially, I guess, is it more for the other surrounding areas that you want to be able to preserve, which I think is great, you know, as a steward of a National Historic Building, I'm all about, right? All about maintaining and keeping the historic aspect of it. But I guess, you know, I'm just a little concerned about what that really means by having to have its overlay in that area.
It means that there could be some other uses that currently aren't permitted in that area. That we would have a conversation about and see if there's some other uses, in general terms that would fit there. And if you wanted to do those, then you would have to, your exterior would need to look a certain way and, things of that nature. So I don't think it's necessarily because anybody who is on the historic register, I mean, very strict
Right, yeah,
guidelines that you have to follow. So I don't think ours is going to be anything like that. It's just, you can, if you want to do this, you can, but then you're gonna have to give us a certain look on the exterior to do that. And then, you know, I think when we created the transition district, we really thought, and this is before STRs became very popular because we've had the transition district for a long time, is that people that, because there's a lot of small houses there, and we thought maybe that some people would put in small shops. And it would be this cute walkable, like a Founder's Square or what's in Fish Creek down on Cedar Street and the other road, I can't remember because I hardly ever go to Fish Creek. You know, so a feel of that nature is what our intention was. That has not come to fruition. Basically, the only thing that we've had are homes turned into STRs and then the 3-story building that's simply so out of place. And now the new condo hotel that's so out of place.
I have a definition for you, Colin, as well. The historic overlay district safeguards the village historic and cultural heritage, stabilizes and improves the property values, promotes civic pride in the beauty and noble accomplishments of the past, protects and enhances the village for its residents, tourists, and visitors for education, pleasure, and general welfare, and strengthens the economy of the village. So we kind of can think of it in that term too. It would be, if we could turn it into a really nice historic area, it would be a draw to Sister Bay. It would be good for all the businesses here. Eventually, maybe they could have like those little tour things that Ephraim has about the history of Sister Bay, because we are rich in history here, but it just hasn't been developed that way or promoted that way.
Paula,
When I go through that,
name and address, please.
oh, sorry, Paula Anschutz, 1453 Apple Port Road, Sister Bay. There are historic buildings there, and as you did just say, it hasn't turned into that, so I'm wondering if the board feels like it will change, because it sounds like if you're gonna open it up to other uses, that would give people less incentive to make it historic. And besides the Razor House and Roots, there are a few old buildings, but it doesn't, like, it seems like there needs to be incentive to get people to put in that much work to make it historic. Because right now, it definitely doesn't have that feel. And so if you're gonna open it up to other uses, it feels like it would draw from that. And then I guess I would also just be curious that if you're gonna open it up to other uses, will it be housing? Would one of the uses be housing?
We don't know until we have those conversations. Do you think housing is, as long as we're here, is a good or a bad thing in that area?
Well, I think now that it has, all the changes down by the old mill are completely make it not appropriate for a historic district, unfortunately. So I feel like if someone said, I want to do a certain style of housing that is not, I mean, a single family home isn't gonna provide much, but a boarding house or whatever that is, yes, I think in any, if there's somebody that's willing to do it in a style that you guys dictate, which would be historic in that area, I would think you definitely should consider it.
Okay.
If I could kind of piggyback off that, just, from being back in front of y'all with my little moving of a cottage back into Roots, you know, there was discussion at the time was that it can't be living quarters. And I'm not trying to make it living quarters, I'm using it in an office, but to go with what Paul was saying, it's like, if that could be a spot that I could use to provide housing for a staff member, and it's an old cottage that I'm preserving, that I'm making look historic, it's great. But I can't currently use it to house someone. I can use it to do a flower shop, a barber shop, there are all these things, Julie, that you spoke about that are enumerated in the ordinance that can be done. But some of those things that are practical too, an old inn that at one point was a boarding house, I can't board someone there. That's kind of, you know, interesting and weird, but yet I'm now surrounded by Airbnbs. So I guess that's something to think about then for you all, if we're gonna go to historic overlay, like, maybe let's look at some of these things, like, I am an old boarding house, I'm an old inn, but I can't even do those two things in this little cute cottage that I'm trying to historically preserve. So think about those things, I guess, if it goes to that point where you want to make it a historic overlay, like, maybe that could be a use that could be brought into it.
I think something that, as we're talking about this historic overlay district, has something you hear in some of the organizations involved in, is we have zoned uses, like these historic districts, they're no longer legal to build. So I see this as an opportunity to give bonuses and let things develop as they would historically, and let some of the density and some of those things that happened in the past enable that through them giving concessions on style and whatnot. So I see it as an opportunity to have what you're doing expand further in that area.
The first draft that we reviewed did provide for housing.
I would also strongly encourage you to come back to the subsequent meetings. We're actually talking about how the overlay district is going to come to fruition.
I guess the other thing, is there anything that the planning commission or the board can do to incentivize people to Cause this is what you want, right? But it hasn't happened, and I don't know, it's like if someone wants to sell their property or put in an STR, that's what they did, so. I guess I don't know, or if you guys have talked about incentives to get people to invest in the historic district.
Not with monetary, the village does not do that, even with our TIF funds. So I don't think we would, I don't think we would go down that path. But like Nate said, it would be the different uses and not having to meet the same parking criteria that you would. And, maybe setbacks are smaller and things of that nature that it may or may not open up opportunity. And no matter what we do, we don't know if that will work either. You know, because I think probably, unfortunately, people that own single family homes in that area, their ROI is all in STRs. And they don't have to do any work for it. They hire somebody else to do everything else, and so I think just that in itself would be a challenge, but if we don't try, we won't know. And nothing could happen. So. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close the public hearing at 5:52. Plan commission conversation. There's no conversation, then a motion.
Does this historic overlay, once you, if it's decided upon and nothing goes on for 3 or 4 years, does it continue?
It would continue until we take it, until there'd be another amendment.
I personally myself, I don't see that this overlay is gonna be, people are gonna run to do anything. Like you said, with the cottages down there that are being rented out, they're pretty happy probably. I just don't see that many properties within their triangle. That would be willing to jump in there and say, yeah, let's change this.
Yeah, but any property that's sold to a new person, they need to make that look on the outside historical in some manner. From 1800s to 1910, I believe it is,
If there's an overlay.
if there's an overlay.
And
So
see, I don't
any,
see people selling, so.
well, properties turn over all the time. And we want to prevent someone selling, say they own a home in that district. And they wanted to turn it into a 3-story apartment complex. This is what we're trying to not have happen. This would be so good for Sister Bay if it was done right, but we have to try. Ephraim has it, Fish Creek has it. They care about their history and it's good for tourism.
We have gotten a lot of complaints, Mitch, I shouldn't say a lot, we've gotten complaints that that district is so restrictive, you can't do anything. So basically, you're not seeing those investments, instead you're just seeing SDRs. Whereas if you give them that incentive, saying, okay, we'll let you do X, Y, and Z, but in exchange, you're gonna make it look like an old building. That's what it does.
But aren't some of the restrictions just completely on the size of the property and what's on it?
It depends what we come up with. That first draft was saying, you know, we'd waive setbacks, some parking, you know, which is what you saw in older
Right.
developments. So it all depends what we decide as we move forward, if the moratorium goes into effect. But yeah, it's basically allowing people to develop these small lots, not having to meet the same setbacks as everybody else in exchange for just making the building look old. I shouldn't say that, architecturally historic.
I mean, I get it, what it is, it's just, I don't see that many, it's not Ephraim, it's not Fish Creek, it doesn't have those cottages down there, most of them are not historical as far as,
Have you been up on Maple and Bluff Lake?
well, that's different.
Those are,
That's different. There's a
those
bluff
need to
overlay
be
there
taken
too.
care of. Yes,
So that probably doesn't fall into this, does it?
Well, the ones on both sides?
Yeah.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
would be in
and
the
Bluff
bluff
side
side,
does.
they'd be in.
But it's
Not
already,
on
in a-
top of the block.
no, but it's already an overlay, isn't it,
Actually,
for bluff?
only the back parts of those lots where you have the bluff.
It's a very small area to take care of, to make historical.
I think it's worth a try.
I have a
I
question.
mean, doesn't mean that we will succeed. We don't always succeed.
If somebody has an STR, we create this historic overlay. And they decide to sell their STR, can it still be another STR? Or do they have to follow a new rule?
No, it could still be an STR because again, they have that option of doing what's
As
allowed
long
in
as
the
they're not
code.
changing the house.
Well, they can do what they want, what's allowed in B2 right now.
Okay.
They can continue to do that.
Okay.
But if they want to do something that's not listed there, that would be listed in the overlay. They could do that new use, provided they made the building look historic.
Okay, because I just see that with all those rentals down there, if anybody sells them, the next person that buys it's gonna want it as a rental, so. I didn't know if there was gonna be a restriction.
No, not
Okay.
that.
And only the outside appearance has to be historical. They can do whatever they want on the inside.
We still looking for a motion?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
I second.
Motion by
Second.
Bell. Second
I
by. Second by Shampoo. All those in favor respond with an eye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion carried. Agenda 7A, site plan review and development agreement, Northern Door Children's Center additions at 10520 Judith Laser Drive.
Okay, so the concerns we had last time, as you know, was with landscaping. They did get back to us and explain why they did not landscape that back corner previously and why they do not feel like, think it's a good idea right now. That's basically their stormwater collection area, and there's a large drop off back there.
So I read that in your report and that makes sense. But I couldn't find a map where it was drawn. It mentions where it's at, but it is not mapped.
Well, the original stormwater, we have to go back to that original plan. Or the first one, the phase 1. I can see if I have it on the file right here. There was also a question on the parking. And so I provided the parking calculations in there.
Okay, I also have comments on that while you're looking for the other.
And then the only other thing I have to add is on the development agreement, Cindy from the Child Care Center got a hold of me and they have a different name, so we'd want to use, I had a hard time finding the real legal name of it, so she gave it to me, so we just have to change the name if we could proceed with the development agreement. Why don't you talk about the parking while I look for that original
Okay.
stormwater thing?
So they're adding 2 toddler classrooms, restrooms, and a small storage area. So the restroom and the storage area don't really apply to parking, but it does, and it says, but if future enrollment warrants, now they'll have the space. They don't plan on using those 2 toddler rooms at this time. Well, but they did not tell us, is that 1, 2, or 3 teachers per one of those classrooms? I can't remember. Depending upon the age of the children, how for each teacher, how many students or toddlers you can only have. So that's not in here. And, so when they say that they have a total of, they would need currently a total of 34 stalls and they have 38, that doesn't tell me about the future. So it's still a question in my mind.
Usually there's only like 2 teachers to toddlers classroom. So if you had two more teachers
Per room.
per room,
So now they're at the 38. And how many children? And now they're short on parking.
So, just to interject on that, this was the drainage plan, the plan commission approved last time. They didn't.
Denise,
Yes,
it's 1 trained per adult adult per 4 toddler children under the age of 2. That's the state statute.
And our code doesn't make that differentiation. It says 1 per 7 children.
And there's a maximum of 8 children in that room.
Okay. That would be then 2 teachers per room. Thank you, Marge. Okay, what do you?
Okay, so what you approved is what is shown in your plan, or I'm sorry, your packet, which would be this page. Basically, you just see drainage, a drop off point in that back southwest corner. That was the drainage that we had approved when phase 1 was done. We didn't require an actual pond. We just said through the lay of the land, that would serve as their drainage area. You can see it drops from 695 down to 687, so 8-foot drop in that back corner of the property. And that's what you approved as their drainage area. I don't know when that was approved. The plan was drawn in 99. I wasn't here when that part was done, so I don't have any other information about the drainage.
But if, you know, later on in the agenda, you mentioned that we should be having the conversation of extending Judith Blazer Drive, you know, out to Cherrywood. And so how are we gonna build a road? Does it go back up? Because I'm just thinking it's a really bad corner. I understand that we will need to protect the Vision Triangle, but I'm not so sure that there can't be some things planted.
That's up to you guys. I mean, you know, I know we had talked about just filling in that triangle going along the perimeter of it with plants. Maybe they're on the other side of the garage, closer to Cherrywood. I don't know.
Well, we did talk about on Cherrywood that they would have to plant. Absolutely, they would have to plant here.
That was not what the board, so Denise is referring to, just south, like directly behind the garage and then closer to Cherrywood. That wasn't on the triangle we identified last time.
No,
But-
it wasn't on the triangle, it was separate, because I'm pretty sure I brought that up.
You might have brought
Well-
that up, but it wasn't in the motion, Denise. It was just that triangle. But that's something that could be done. It would help with screening, definitely. It would screen, you know, the back of that building. I do believe Cole, are you online? Janelle, does anyone have their hand up?
No. Christopher, are you with Cole? I think he is.
They could answer whether or not it's possible to get any trees out there at all and where they could get the trees.
Christopher, could you please unmute yourself? Are you with the company that's working with the childcare center? Christopher?
Oh, sorry, no, I'm owner in yacht club, I'm just, I guess, a resident guest. Am I allowed to be here?
Oh, sure, that's fine.
Okay, I'm just staying on mute, just so I don't make any noise.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
sure
then
thing.
there's Joel, no, you're with something else. I don't think he's on, Julie.
Well, you have the ability to put the conditions on, You just have to decide what conditions you'd want on there. When you do go past there, some of the plantings that are there right now are kind of scruffy looking.
It's just brush.
Mhm.
So if and when they use those 2 rooms and max out, they would have a maximum of 18 teachers plus 3 admin, which would be equals 21 spaces. If you add an additional 16 children, that brings them to 136 children max, which requires 19 spaces. So they need 40 stalls. I mean, and we will have no idea when they may or may not use those rooms in the future. So to not require them to put in parking, 2 spaces for that parking at this point in time, I think would be remiss of us. Because we will have no control of that in the future.
So we do want to revise parking plan showing an additional 2 stalls, or making sure it shows 40 stalls.
Mhm. I mean, that's my calculation.
They have plenty of room to enlarge that parking lot. So. we should
Or
add-
even find 2 spaces
should add a
tucked
couple
away
spaces
someplace
to
else,
that parking lot.
right? I mean, if on page 30, and if you look at the aerial, and in that triangle, there's scrub already there. I just don't know why there still can't be some plantings
Along with the right of way, they just. build
along the right of way.
frontage.
Along the right of way on the extension of Judith Blazer Drive and then Cherrywood Lane.
It would look a lot nicer than what it is right now.
So would you want to see that come back or change it, just change it before it goes to the board, bring it back to the plan commission to look at it?
I don't know that we need to waste their time or ours. If you have 3 board members here and if they bring it to the board, I think that should suffice.
Okay, so, then I think if the committee's in agreement with that, the motion would be that a revised parking plan be provided showing 40 stalls. Revised landscaping plan be provided showing plantings along the right of way, the future Judith Blazer Drive and on existing Cherrywood, except for the vision clearance triangles. The name on the development agreement be revised to reflect the proper name, and then it would go.
Which is what?
And then it would go to the board in.
Oh, that's okay if you have to look it up. Don't worry. Yeah. Don't worry.
All right, yeah, just out of curiosity. Sorry.
Any,
This way.
looks like are they redoing the entire building existing? Or is it, I mean, when I looked at the plan, I was confused. So, are they just rearranging offices and things? Because what I'm used to it being looking like is, it's like they're revamping the whole building.
No, I don't think, no, what they're doing is they're knocking out that south wall and they're putting the additions out that way. There is some minor remodeling inside that didn't affect the square footage.
Okay.
for the floor.
I was scrolling to see if there was another map in this packet, but maybe there wasn't. Maybe that was just in last month's. No, there it is.
Okay, Julie, the landscaping plan shall be revised in such fashion that what?
There is, shrubs planted along the right of way on the future Judith Blazer
I
Drive.
wouldn't just say shrubs.
Yeah, I had plantings, but it has to be in compliance with the code,
So say
which is a
shrubs?
mix.
Trees and shrubs,
Okay,
because
In
they have
compliance
to
with the
plant
code.
street trees every 40 feet.
Yeah, or if you say vegetation in compliance with the code.
okay, then, so then we'll use vegetation. Is on the road. Okay,
Along the right of way of future Judith Blazer Drive and Cherrywood, accepting there from the vision clearance triangles.
and Cherrywood. And then what? I'm sorry.
Accepting the vision clearance triangles. And I think if everyone's in agreement along Judith Blazer, it would just go back to that access driveway that they have. We never made them go the full length, we've never made them go the length of the, what would that be, the west line?
Well, we would need street trees every 40
I
feet.
mean, we've never made them go here.
If that road goes all,
On Judith Blazer, you never made them put it there. So. I mean, you could go back and say, we want you to put them all there now, but in reality, I think that should have been addressed when they did that big part. I think the fair thing is you focus on the part that they're adding right now and they have to screen around what they're adding.
that's fine. What did you find out the name is?
I stopped looking.
Oh, you stopped looking now, okay.
It's just, I think it's, Northern Door.
Isn't it the Northern Door Children's Center? Because it's in.
Child
GCC,
care
Child
center.
Care
I think it's,
Center.
yeah,
CCC.
Yeah,
cause I had Ann Learning on there because
Oh.
that's how, the county has it listed. It was just a minor revision. It was.
Okay.
No major.
okay, so the Northern Door
Child Care Center.
Okay.
It's the Northern Door Children's Center.
That's what it should be.
It's NDCC Children's Center.
So it's the Northern Door Children's Center.
There's
That's
just-
what's on the sign.
Says here, the name of our organization is Northern Door Children's Center. When needing our 501c3 status, to be clear, we use Northern Door Child Care Project, Inc., DBA
Oh.
Northern Door Children's Center.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I make the motion, please.
Motion by Gretzmacher, second by Shampo. Any further discussion? All those in favor respond with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Carried. 7B, Site Plan Review and Development Agreement, Andrew and Tina Torsivia, Office of Pizza Shop Deli, 10553 Country Walk Drive.
So on this one, the main issue that we had last time was the lack of the landscaping plan. So they did submit a landscaping plan. So I did put together the development agreement that addressed the things we talked about earlier, as well as the revised landscaping plan. Mr. Tresivio also submitted photos of that north side of the property. Just kind of explaining why he didn't think he needed that landscaping earlier, because it does appear to really shield this property, but we did tell him he had to come up with that landscaping
But that's
plan.
because the plantings that were there are not on his property.
Yep, correct. So we did require a revised plan, which he did submit it. It is in the packet, Mr. and Mrs. Versivia did. And then, of course, to meet their parking needs, they're putting that parallel parking along the north, which they're gonna need to put asphalt down to accommodate that. And then my understanding from the commission was he could put that in and then resurface it after the season, was my understanding. So that's why I drafted the development agreement. If you have different ideas, you know, we can revise that. The other thing was, we agreed he could put a fence around we discussed that it would be okay to put a fence around the propane tank and the dumpster. And that he needed that 6-foot high fence along the west line where the residential zone was located. Other than that, everything else is pretty explanatory in the packet.
I mean, I think it's okay not to, repave the whole parking lot, but certainly parking will have to be striped. And I don't know if it's, scroll back, I don't know if there's anything striped there now that would have to be removed, or if it's all just worn off.
It's not straight.
Okay,
Left.
okay, all right. So as long as the new parking then is striped, you would have, a year to pave it.
So the additional stuff he has put in, he would,
I'm just talking about the asphalt.
yeah,
Like, we're not having him redo it all now, but there should be a deadline that a year from the agreement, it's done.
yeah, I had October, I think, written in there, but whatever we wanted, I had to put a date in there. So he installs the new parking and he stripes that, and then the remainder has to be striped in a year? Or he,
Or no, he has a year to do the asphalt, because we're not making him
you mean
do the
re-ask,
rest of it. Yeah, all the old stuff.
stripe everything now? But then touch up the old asphalt within a year's time.
Because that's what you said you wanted to do anyway.
Yeah,
There's just now a deadline.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But what I ideally would like to do is just do the whole thing in a year, but I'd still identify where the parking spaces would be. But just redo the whole thing and say, because it'll look all patchy otherwise. They're probably really not that good. So if we can figure out a way to, yeah, that's maybe.
And I mean, I'm shaking my head no. I'm one person. Maybe there's others that think that parking on the lawn,
Well,
Mm-mm.
we would gravel that area because it would have to be gravelled anyways to pave it. You build it up and you gravel it, so we would gravel that designated area. Right, and then in a year's time, we would repave the whole thing. And like I referred to like the patio, for example, the patio, they were operational for, all last summer, they didn't have any designated parking. It was all just gravel.
That one is a is grandfather.
Grandfather? But didn't it change, no, I don't know the previous use of it, so I don't. assume that's right.
how would you paint the gravel?
Yeah.
Barrier,
Yeah, great, there's
you like the big
so many,
concrete
so many ways to.
paver,
Okay.
Yeah.
maybe to designate the spots.
Yeah, but that,
Parking attendant.
The problem is the code does require it to be a hard surface, and we just made June's Juicery not only do her parking, but all of her other old parking.
Yeah,
So we have to be fair.
Yeah.
I don't wanna get us in trouble.
sure.
That's okay.
Yeah, of course.
yeah, but their old parking was supposed to be done a long time ago.
We've given them a year, I believe. Close on, it was past the year by the time that was.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah,
I understand that point about it just being, it's gonna look disjointed no matter what for a year.
It will.
Because if you have gravel, it's gonna look a little disjointed.
It's actually probably gonna be cheaper to just have them come in and resurface the whole thing when they're putting the patch in, rather than come back with the equipment, to be honest with you. That's your call, though, or your call.
well, I don't think the pavers would work, because you don't want people,
We could stake just parking lots, like the parking spaces. And number them. And, yeah,
it'll look better if it's all done at once, but there's not a
Yep.
possibility of doing it all. I would,
I can't even get anyone to call me back right now, which is, there's so many.
It's a waste if it's not done all at once.
I would be okay, but whatever you would come up with, Julie and I would have to sign off of on how you're gonna mark up,
Sure.
that it would work. And then I would give you less than a year now. I would ask that by May 30th, the entire lot is done next year.
Yeah. Then, I mean, I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up, but I wanted to talk about the landscape. Whatever.
Not quite yet.
Yeah.
So if you have some ideas on how you want to do this, I want to see examples. So something you found on the web, take a picture of it, print it out, whatever, draw it. I don't care, but I need something concrete that Julie and I can agree on, other than something just verbal.
Yep.
That we can put in the file.
Easy, yeah. I can-
Okay, now you can talk about landscaping.
So just real quick on that, I'm fine with doing the west, no, sorry. The south, but the north elevation, which is closest to Ironwood Yoga. So I've been talking to the Massies, and, you know, my concern is that I'm gonna have to put new trees and shrubs, greenage so close to their existing monster trees, which are fully developed, beautiful. When they dig into the root system, their trees are gonna overshadow mine, and or vice versa. Mine may impede on theirs. Something's gonna happen to that. Like, my trees will wind up dying off. The low hanging stuff might not, but it's not gonna be a good scenario for their trees and or ours. It's quite full as is between us, and I mean, Brad's happy enough, or, you know, I don't mean to call him his names or anything like that, but they're happy enough to write a letter saying that they would rather didn't do that for these reasons.
Let me pull it up on GIS.
Yeah.
And I did take some pictures that are in here showing.
Well, I can't tell if there's cedars or evergreens that are like on the front half facing Country Walk Drive that are rather large. Granted, this, yeah, so, yeah, cedars. Yeah, I so scrolled past that. I don't want to scroll all the way back again. So what, does the picture show the backside? Because though, I mean, the picture on the GIS, the time of year that it was taken, there is no greenery on those. I don't know what kind of trees they are.
I know, well, I can show you photos, I've got some photos.
Well, I think the tourist reviews were more concerned just on that north line, if I remember right, making sure they didn't.
Just the
plant
north,
more.
yeah, just the north line, that's, yeah.
And they're still willing to do.
I know, but, okay, so maybe here I could understand with the size of these trees, but what is this? What are these?
Those are all trees. They're not like, yeah. They're
Ding,
not
ding,
like-
ding, ding.
not like the
Yeah,
cedars.
okay,
It's providing enough of a barrier, greenage barrier.
because they're bare in this particular
Yeah.
picture. But are they maples? Are they popple? Are they scrub trees?
They kind of look like the ones that are in front of the childcare center. or the, not in front of it,
Super,
they look brushy.
because there's low hanging, like, greenage over there too. So it's, the whole thing makes it fun. I'm not exactly sure what trees they're. Good say.
Sure, bring it on up.
So.
Oh, I'm gonna zoom in here. They are not great trees, whatever they are. They're scrubby. Thank you. I don't know if you want to show everybody around the table. Sure. Sure. Is there?
You wanna see?
Okay, is there a something that in the future, if something happens to the trees on the other people's property, that in the development agreement that it states that they must plant on their property?
God, when you word that.
I know. Because these are not great trees.
You could just require the parking west, planting west of the cedar trees. That way those big cedars that are there are adequate and they don't have to add anything to that part. But if the part you're concerned about is that area west of the cedar line, that's the area you could require the landscaping to be planted. So they do half of what we've asked them to do originally,
Plus them though, so.
this.
What are the wishes of the commission?
Maybe start with the parking. What does commission, you had offered some ideas, Denise?
That they are allowed gravel parking to put in gravel. And Julie and the plan commission chair will have to sign off on how they are going to designate the parking spaces.
And what's the deadline on,
And
So
the
yeah.
entire parking lot must be surfaced by May 30th, 2025.
resurface and stripe?
And striped?
Yes,
Can I say real quick? What about planting, or what about putting in, we could do, like railroad ties. And bury them, pave the top of them, and have gravel between each spot. So it'd be a railroad tie or pavers, and then gravel, pavers, gravel, pavers, gravel. Something like that, because that'll designate spaces then.
not saying that people won't drive over them, but that's an idea. Do you know where to get railroad ties? Do you know where to get railroad ties?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't, that's why I was asking.
Menard sells them.
Oh,
By the bulk,
okay.
Okay, so if I can just back,
or something more environmental would be pavers probably.
okay, so just so I can back up then, so it can be gravel for this first year. And then how they're designated is up to you and I
Yep,
before they're installed.
yes,
And they can't open until they're installed.
correct.
And then on the remainder, you said and then those have to become asphalt. And the entire thing resurfaced and restriped by, you said,
May 30th, 2025.
May 31st, end of the month. Saturday anyway. Just, you're gonna give them, why not have it be the last day of the month?
Because most people aren't working on Saturday, the asphalt people,
Yeah.
but that's fine, May 31st.
all right, so now we got that parking done. Now let's move on, I'm sorry, it's just a lot. I have to change the development agreement, so I just want to make sure I'm on track. Okay, now the landscape. Yes, he has to do the south the way we agreed.
Yep.
Yes, he has to put the fence on the west, the way we talked about, he has to put those fences, get permits of course for him around the tank and the dumpster. And on the north line, he does not have to add landscaping to that area adjacent to the cedars. But to that area west of the cedars, to the
Property.
to the west property line. It has to be planted per the plan submitted.
But you're saying per, if those trees are ever removed by Ironwood, we would have to plant our own trees.
No, we moved down past
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, per the plan. Which it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees. And
And then
some,
the small.
day
plantings in
lilies.
between.
what color day lilies, please? They're not ditch day lilies, are they?
I am.
Not
Would you
orange,
like us to,
not orange.
I mean, I'd prefer not. They-
Those are ditch lilies.
But, okay.
I mean, does it,
Any other color's fine.
does it specifically matter what we, like, if we did tall grass and
Or like
You
hostas.
have to, you presented day lilies.
Okay, we'll do daylilies, but
sure,
I just don't even know. What? I can,
yeah, that's fine.
yeah.
Bright sunny yellow. They
Okay,
come in, daylilies come in all kinds of colors.
okay,
So you could choose a wide variety and mix and match.
okay,
It'll be beautiful.
thank you.
So, right, is that what you count? Five,
Okay,
five
I see
trees?
five, yep.
Okay. So according to that plan and here, and then we should notate that. Or in the file, we should probably, so you don't have to read, we should probably cross these off with initials on the landscaping plan that goes in the file.
Okay, that goes with the development agreement.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be redone, but
Something you offered that I think would be good for the file is to get a letter from Ironwood.
Yeah.
And just so we have it, so that we look at this 20 years from now, we know what was going on.
Yeah, sure.
And the letter from Ironwood says they have no objection to them not having the landscaping there. Okay.
I guess,
no, that they would prefer them not to have plantings because it will harm the root system of the trees.
And what if Ironwood doesn't give us the letter?
We'll get it.
Oh. You'll get one, okay.
We'll bring it there.
Jill, you got all that? Not that we want you to repeat it, but
Yeah, I think so.
Can I add something to, I have a question really. I have a neighbor who's concerned about the fence in the back. I saw the fence on the plan, but does it have to be in this development agreement under landscaping?
We do have to make sure the fence is included in the development agreement to make sure the site gets developed that
Cause I
way.
don't see it
Oh,
in the written part of the development agreement.
oh, we can certainly add that.
Okay,
Make it very clear that there's a fence.
okay.
She's saying on the, you know, where we do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, she wants the fence spelled out in there instead of just referring to the landscaping plan.
So that's a 6-foot high fence.
Yes,
Where's that required on what property line?
along the left property line,
Okay.
the full length of the property line.
Okay.
I have one last thing, whatever you guys, because I don't want to interrupt anybody.
So,
So we talked about exterior seating and we're not a indoor, we're not serving people. We don't have, waitresses or waiters or anything like that. But we do want to have, or are asking to have some seating outside for staff. We've got, we're gonna have at least 6 people in our kitchen. We've got 4 in our office. We sometimes conduct meetings outside. And we'd like to at least have 2 tables or 2 like picnic tables. Nothing more than that,
Great.
to simply break outside and so forth. And that's it. It's not intended for people to sit there and eat pizza.
You have them there, they will sit and eat pizza.
Well,
So can Long Coast Realty have one?
and we,
You could put them in the front,
yeah, it doesn't matter.
right?
We can't have.
I don't
any
think we would
seating.
have a problem with that,
So we-
in the front of the business, just not on the back.
Is there any seating inside?
There's,
Yeah.
oh, well, we were gonna have, there's gonna be like a couple high tables, just for people to stand at. No,
While they're
don't want
waiting?
people in there congregating and eating.
So, okay, so they're just waiting for a pizza? Okay, my next question was, are you applying for a liquor license?
We will for merch business, yes,
Is it just for carryout?
just for carry.
Okay.
Andrew, you said you're gonna have 6 employees?
We'll probably have, yeah, we're most likely probably 4, let's see. So we have 4 up front and then probably 4, actually. We'll probably have 4 kitchen staff, actually.
4 kitchen and then 4 in front?
Yeah, yeah. I don't really know.
We don't actually know.
So
You're gonna have delivery?
So this might be a problem, okay?
No,
This might be a problem because when you originally talked to me and I'm trying to find it, we calculated your parking based on that.
Yeah, I think it was 4. We were calculating 4, right? I think we need more than 4 in the kitchen.
At a time. You had so many meetings on this already, then you also find the,
Well, just keep whatever we have. Maybe we don't need to change it.
yeah, but so the parking is based on the number of employees you told us you were having.
Hmm?
The parking, what we require, is based on the number of employees you tell us that you're going to have.
Right.
And originally you gave us a number, and so when then we calculated and said, okay, he needs X amount of parking stalls based on that. So if that has now changed, that means we have to recalculate the parking to make sure you have enough parking.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Let's
we won't change it.
change whatever we agreed upon. We'll change.
So then the development agreement would say employees cannot exceed whatever we agreed on. If they're okay, that's a.
How many parking spaces are there gonna be there total again?
13.
13?
And here's the thing too, we could, I don't want to change all this. We could do angled parking on the side, on the north elevation, but we were 1 foot shy of the 22-foot lane passing. If we did angled parking, we'd have 22 spots.
They can't give you an exception to that. That's the type of thing you'd have to get a variance on. Cause it's dimensional. But you're right, you were 1 foot short.
Yeah, it's 1 foot short, it's just like,
So do you think that that's written somewhere?
I'm going back to the old staff reports. The problem is,
we have, it's,
the original staff report talked about the number of stalls required. I'm just trying to see if I have the original staff report.
well, put it this way. We can still find it, but we just don't change it.
Yeah, well, this committee needs to know for a fact what we based it on. Because I think that that's also important, including in the development agreement.
What we had here, professional office is 344 square feet. The dining area is 4 tables to wait at while you wait for your order is 713 square feet. The ladder space includes any retail beverage based on square footage. 2 stalls plus 1 for employees is required for the office. And 5 plus 1 for each employee is required for the pizza sales. So we were saying he needs 2 for the office, front office, and 1 for each employee. Now he's saying there's 4 employees up front. Okay, so that's 6 up front.
So now there's,
And then in back, he needs 5 plus 1 for each employee. And now, and he's saying there's 4 to 6 employees.
Or,
Eight.
What is
He
the
said
total on that?
I don't, you have to say it out, you have to read it again.
Okay, so he needs 2 for his customers up front. And he said there's 4 employees, so he needs 6 for the
Well,
front
there's-
end of the building. And then in back, the square footage requires 5 plus 1 for each employee, and he's saying there's 4 to 6. Sake of argument, let's say 6, so it'd be 11 for the back. And then 6 for the front. So that'd be
17,
17.
so we're 4 short.
And, but that's assuming 6, so let's say he does just have 4, he's still short now.
we could have.
Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Not sure what changed, because we had, always had 4 in the front, we always had 4 employees. And if we keep 4 in the back,
But you need 2 for customers.
but I guess what I'm saying is what, based on what we had up to this point, nothing's changed with people. We're not changing the restaurant. We're not, and we've always had 4 up front. We.
4 employees for the real estate,
Yeah, that's only we had.
right? And that's fine, and if that hasn't changed, but then it's also 2 for your realty customers.
Sure.
So that means 6 spaces.
No, I'm not arguing that, I'm just saying we were under the impression that the 13 as last meeting was acceptable. I don't know what.
Are you trying to find out where the numbers?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Because now you're telling us there's more, so originally you told us how many employees there would be, so we calculated the parking. Tonight you're telling us a different number and it's higher.
Oh, we'll keep it at
More
4.
employees.
We'll keep it at 4, we'll get rid of it. But I still think the number's off. Is the fact.
But the assumption was 2 employees up front.
We always had 4.
So that's where it's falling short. There's more employees than was planned.
Well, that's a whole new,
So I guess, I'm understanding Andrew's question here, is how did we get this far along? We've come back multiple times and we said, okay, well, we've talked about this parking, we said it was adequate. And now,
Because the first calculation was based on what they told us up at the very first.
Said 2 employees, but we've never had 2 employees,
We've never had 2 employees up front, always had 4.
unless we're not considered
For the past 2
employees.
years, we've had, yeah, unless we're not considered employees.
no, you are, because you
Yeah.
have vehicles.
Ride my bike.
you have a bike rack?
Yeah, I would happily buy.
No, he means that seriously.
Yeah.
Because if you allow for
Alternate transport?
alternative modes of transportation, it could impact your parking.
You don't need they have the ability to reduce that number if you have.
Then yes, I would.
You're being held to that if you say that, Andy.
I,
You can't keep changing your mind.
we buy, I bike to work.
Our boys bike to our office all the time, it would be so fun, they'd love having a little bike ride.
Where are you gonna put that? Cause you can't put it in a parking stall, so.
We put it,
So we need to know exactly, because that's what we're holding you to, because what we're talking about now goes into a development agreement, which gets recorded on your deed. It's a binding legal document, so we've gotta make up our mind.
Yep.
And have it exact. We can't keep changing it.
What is there a requirement, certain distance from the building or?
Not on the bike.
Nothing?
You just can't take up the.
Would it
you
make
just
the
can't take
most
up a
sense
parking
behind,
stall.
in the back, maybe?
Okay.
Mhm.
We can put it
So-
in the back right away.
I mean,
How much-
maybe for pizza?
Yeah, but you're not just gonna have people coming there for pizza. I mean, you're gonna have it for all uses there. When you tuck it away in the back, people aren't going to see it. They aren't gonna use it. People aren't gonna wanna leave their bike tucked in the back. I mean, yes, I understand Sister Bay is kind of a magical place.
All right, 2 bike racks, one in the front, one in the back.
Sure. So you're as
So
close as possible to the point of access. So this is still something I regret about Piggly Wiggly, and I look at grocery stores all over the state. And I see where we stuck the parking for the Piggly Wiggly in the middle of the parking lot, which is just absurd. So we should have that as close as possible to the door within reason. Let's not stick it on the far side of the parking lot or in the middle of the parking.
Well, I was thinking that if you look on page 91 in the front of the building, so you have the handicap and the 3 other parking spaces, and then you have that existing perennial flower bed with shrubbery. I mean,
Yeah.
in that green space there, Nate? Could be one,
That'd be a good place for it.
and then where would you suggest in the back?
We could do,
I'm not asking you.
sorry,
Right in that green space that's kind of on the back of the building, in the same corner. Like on that same side of the corner of the building.
Do you see where it says existing blacktop?
Yep.
Just to the west of their building?
Mhm.
That's a good spot to tuck it in because it doesn't interfere with parking.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, maybe the doors and everything.
You won't have to cross the parking lot to go there.
Right, 2 bike
on
racks.
the right side of the garage door.
I think 3 slots would be great, but I think 2 would be sufficient.
I don't think 2 is sufficient.
I'm just thinking about the
4.
sign. 4? Okay.
At least in the back,
Yeah,
yeah.
4 slots or 4? bike?
Oh.
4 slots.
Yeah, 4 slots, yeah.
For 4 bikes, like if a family would go there. So, did you guys hear what they said about the front? Between the asphalt and, there's like a little mound, it says.
You can come and look at my
perennial-
screen if you want, or take a picture of it.
Yes.
I would suggest you take a picture because we will notate it on your plan.
Yep.
And draw your blood when you sign the document.
Is this a seasonal carryout?
I'm sorry,
Is it seasonal carryout?
season.
No.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
So this bike rack's gonna work in November, December, January, February, and March?
Neat. Bikes in the
I
winter.
get that some people ride, if you try to capture.
So you're gonna have a decrease in volume at that time of year.
But-
Yeah, so they bike in Finland. Finland is a lot colder, and yes, it's an outlier now, but it's also having infrastructure, but it's not having infrastructure. You don't have people do it. It's, if you build it, they will come. They're not coming to there and build it.
Our staff's most likely get a decrease in the winter months anyways.
More limited hours.
So are we okay with everything? As discussed?
Okay, so. Should we have a separate motion on, I think we should have a separate motion. Pertaining to, alternative modes of transportation and. According to having 4 employees for the realty office and, further square footage would need 2 parking spaces for customers. So the front of the house requires 6. For the square footage of, the pizza parlor, they are required, to have 5 spaces and a maximum of 6 employees, which would create 11 parking spaces for a total of 17. So in lieu of being 4 spaces short, we will ask for 2, but, 4, what do they call? Stall, it is stall, okay. For 2 4-stall bike racks to be placed, one at the front of the building and one in the back. Please see note on plan.
Do you want to do that as a separate motion from the owner agreement?
Do you think?
I mean, I think that when we did it at Peach Barn, it was all just part of the development agreement.
It's just so long and wordy.
Okay.
And in the code, it does it because I was at work, came here, I don't have my code to look at. There is. Our ability to do that does not, it doesn't say how little or how much.
Correct.
That we can.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's what I just wanted to make sure that it was kind of open-ended in our fair and realistic.
Like something I don't want to say on there is how, I mean, the average cars is maybe 1.25 is in it. So I think that we're covering those for stalls and then some.
I'll make that motion. I'm just
Second.
gonna do it separate by bill. Further discussion? All those in favor respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, carried.
Now, for your motion, do you want to describe where they should be in the back of in the front of the building?
It's
Yes.
right here.
Yes, that was included in the motion, Janelle.
I said as,
No, we discussed.
well, as discussed or notated on the plan.
Okay, so how would you describe that?
We're gonna take a picture of it and include it in the packet. Oh, how's that?
That's a good idea.
So what I need from you guys to make that next packet is I need the letter from the yoga studio, like ASAP.
Yeah, I get it to you.
And then I can catch up with you on everything else later, okay?
Okay.
How it would read.
So should I do a screenshot of this and email it to you?
Please, and then I'll copy it.
Okay. I can't remember how to do a screenshot on this computer.
I can email the picture.
Yes, you took a picture of it. Send it to Janelle. Thank you. Why does it have to be so complicated? Do I make it that way?
How did you do?
Okay, so. Do you want to read the rest of the other motion then, Janelle?
That the plan commission recommends that the village board approve the development agreement for the office and pizza shop deli that Andrew and Tina Torcivia would like to create in the building formerly house Julie's Upscale Resale at 10553 Country Walk Drive as amended at this meeting. In accord with those agreements, gravel will be allowed in the new parking area that was approved by the plan commission until May 31st. On the condition that Schmelzer and the plan commission chair must sign off on how the parking spaces in that area will be delineated. And that must occur before the business can open.
They must be installed before the business can open.
Okay, and the parking, the stall delineation,
No, the gravel and the delineation has to all be installed before they open.
and gravel and delineations must be installed before the business can open. The landscaping plan shall also be amended in such fashion that it depicts that plantings will only be required west of the cedar tree line that is on the north property line, and a 6-foot high fence will be required upon the full length of the west property line. Is that okay?
What about the other landscaping on the south side? What about the picnic table?
Good point.
Okay, so what else do you want?
Landscaping along the south property line would be per the plan submitted.
Okay, landscaping along the south property line shall be what?
Per the plan submitted.
Okay. Okay.
And all other conditions per the draft development agreement presented. and add that they be allowed one picnic table adjacent to the real estate office on the grass.
And then what about the seating up front? Is that the picnic table?
Yeah.
Okay. Whether, okay, will be allowed one picnic table. At the front of the building.
And then we have the letter, okay, I'll wait till you're done with that, then we have to talk about that letter.
Okay. So you wanna make that motion, okay, so Bertle? Oh, no, somebody's gotta make that motion.
Yeah, okay. So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor respond with an aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
So then we have the letter, do you wanna do anything with the letter or just,
The letter from Ironwood or the
I'm
letter
I'm
on
sorry,
review?
the letter from, that was in the, from the neighbor.
So we did this for Peach Barn and I don't think that it's a bad idea that we follow up at the end of the season this year. And have it be an agenda item for neighbors to come and talk to us. I don't know how, I mean, how did we word it with Peach Barn?
So Peach Barn, was a kind of like a temporary approval where we said, we're gonna give you this, we're gonna meet again in spring. And if there are any problems, we're gonna rescind this development agreement. That's not what the neighbor's asking for. He's just saying, hey, can you give me some time to operate and then meet with, and then get resident input if there's minor adjustments that need to be made that they voluntarily make.
But then if that's what they want, that's out of our purview. That has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, this is just a letter submitted. You don't have to do anything with it. It's just that they're saying, we want an opportunity to have more input regarding minor adjustments. The other option is, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I think that most of our businesses are willing to work with people. If a neighbor came with us something, you know, I'd probably go to Andrew and Tina and say, look, the neighbor's having a real problem with X, Y, and Z. Can you do this? Most businesses accommodate that. If not, then I'd probably find some reason to pull you back in here. So,
I mean, we're already putting up a massive 6-foot fence for the guy. We're trying to be amicable, good neighbors. Which way? I talked to Fred multiple times.
yeah, one of the concerns is, so the development agreement dictates how that property is developed. And we spent a lot of time on this case, you know, I think this is our third meeting on it, so it's how it's gonna be developed. We all agree with it. They're gonna proceed, we all proceed in good faith that what's in that development agreement is what happens. It's kind of not fair to say, but we're gonna keep getting input from the neighbors and asking me changes to that development agreement. It's not fair to the Tresivios.
Right.
However.
So if the neighbors would have complaints, they could come to, like anything
They
else
always
in the
have the
village.
opportunity. to-
Comments and correspondence at the beginning of any meeting to enlighten us, and then maybe we'll make some visits and find some.
Yeah, really, the only, you know, if the neighbor is telling us that the Tresivios are doing something that violates that agreement, then we need to talk, you know, we need
Yeah.
to do something. But if they just change their mind and they want something else later, we can't do that. We're all moving forward in good faith that this is
Right.
what we agree, we'll take care of that problem.
Okay.
So then the motion would be to
What-
do nothing further with that letter at
Right,
this time.
but what about Ironwood Yoga's letter?
That was part of the motion, wasn't it?
No,
I thought.
I thought that's the letter that Julie wanted to be handled separately, was the Ironwood Yoga letter.
Yeah, I meant the neighbors. letter.
Okay.
But, so then let's just do a motion on real quick that they need the letter from Ironwood Yoga. prior to. Well, it has, I need it before I can send the development agreement to the board, so it's kind of in your hands.
Try to get it tomorrow.
Yeah, because if you don't get it to me, then it can't go to the board, then you can't open, so it's really in your best interest to get it.
And what are they gonna say in that letter? Or what do you want them to say in that letter?
It says that Ironwood, the notes I have here is they prefer that the Torsivias not plant trees adjacent to their cedars because they are concerned it would harm their root system. Those were the notes I had.
Okay, so we need that in a motion, that we need that before,
Before this can be forwarded to the board.
okay, so moved.
Second.
So, motion by Berto, second by Kane, all those in favor respond with an eye.
I,
Aye.
Carried. All right, can we move on?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
glad we're done with these people.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, good luck. 7C, Plan Review and Development Agreement, Chad Rockers, Residents on Country Way. Is Chad with us?
Chad's not, but Joel, if you wanna unmute yourself.
But
Hi,
Joe is
Joe.
the contractor.
I'm unmuted.
Okay, perfect.
So, with Mr. Rothers, we just wanted some minor things clarified on here. Joe did clarify that the doors are pretty much all glass as we had talked about, or as we preferred. And you saw the plans, you saw the revisions to it.
But there's still old plans and new plans in our packet.
So what you have is the old plan is for, let me just start going to this, not all mine have numbers on them, but. So. I think what's your page 123 is the site plan. The next page, which is called A2, is your floor plan. A3 is elevation views.
Right, and that's the old plan with the old doors.
Yes, and then the new A3 is so what we need to do in the development agreement is remove the original A3 that's dated 4/5/24 and replace it with the elevation view dated June 17th, 24. And then it's as discussed or as.
So page 125 won't be in there, page 128 will supersede that.
I don't have numbers on mine, but I think that's right, Nate. Yeah.
In the packet, that is. First to do.
Okay, so
Not that one.
this one. This one.
This one that's deleted, A3 that's dated April something,
Okay,
April 5th, 2024,
okay.
which is page 125, you said, Lee?
That is 125, yeah,
Okay,
128 is the.
and 128,
Which is A5, right?
no, it's A3.
Oh, okay,
Right, but it's dated 6/17,
okay.
2024,
Thank
so
you.
that replaces
Okay.
it.
And that is my focus. I left that in there to keep the elevation view in there. And then the last page that was just basically to show the colors in the doors, but it does make more sense to replace with that when the last page that we have in the pack.
So moved.
Second.
By Berto, second by Bell. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor respond with an eye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item 7D, road planning. All right, Chris.
All
All
right,
right, Julie.
so as you know, we have to get working on this for wrap it up, I guess, I should say, for our smart growth plan. And so I just wanted to go through my thoughts and see what you think. First of all, Chris, I have to apologize, did not call you back, I just didn't have the time, so Canterbury. So if you take the map that we have now, the official road map, and you just kind of wipe it out and say, what do we really need? Do we need all these roads we planned these years ago? As my staff report says, I don't think you do, and I don't think you're ever gonna put them in. I think that's a dream for 20 years. We didn't do any, I think we did one road in 20 years. So, you know, to be realistic, I don't think we need all those roads shown. So let's just focus on the ones we realistically think we need to accommodate growth and can afford and take care of. So the first one I still think that you need that Canterbury Road extended. Kind of follow the ridge line. I think you need that over to Woodcrest. We've always talked about that one. You know, we even talked this past year about trying to get an easement to put that road in. So I think you need to show that one on the plan.
Something I want to say about that road is having those curves in there, how it is, I know that's practical, but that also will functionally slow people down and that will become a high-speed bypass with that. So I like not having a real straight road there, having that curve there. Will make
I
it safe.
wish that it could be straight for, emergency purposes.
I'd like there to be less emergency calls though, not have it
That's
be
not
straight.
happening, yeah.
No, so as we make wide, straight roads, that does lead to more people getting injured and dying.
So Canterbury is not a very wide road. And if this is proposed from 57 to go straight up through the whole property over to Woodcrest, wouldn't Canterbury have to be widened?
It most likely would be.
What it would actually do is I believe that road would have to be rebuilt or at least resurfaced, and they'd make it a standard road. Right now, it's not, the right of way is wide enough, but the road bed that's there is very.
Well, and some of those new buildings are like right there, almost on the road. The ones that are right on the corner.
And
of
that's why,
57 and Canterbury.
yeah, that's why we have the setback from the right of way usually, or the platted center line, to make sure if we ever do go back and fix the road, put in a new road bed, they're set back far enough. So we should be, but yes, that would definitely, it would have to be widened in a sense. I just want to add to that, this is also, so when we're looking at Canterbury, where Canterbury intersects 57, if you remember last year, we also talked about putting a flashing pedestrian crossing light there.
Yes.
And authorize that TSIP grant. So that would all help with that whole area and keeping that area safe, so.
Every time we talk about widening a road, though, I think we need to acknowledge that we're making it more dangerous. And that it seems like we just accepted that we want a wider, safer road, and we're making a wider road more dangerous because people will go faster on a wider road.
Well,
I understand that's not the function of this
Well, what
conversation.
about a fire truck? I mean, doesn't it have to be a width of a fire truck that can navigate that
Those fire
narrow
trucks-
road?
I mean, what is the minimum width for a private road in the village? 18 feet?
Well, so. I don't have this information in front of me, but we rehashed this last year when we did the land division code, talking about how wide roads had to be. That's what this road would have to be.
But I also think we should probably not go too far down this path, because really we're just talking about where the road should go,
We
not
just
where
talked
the
about where the
road
road
should be.
Right now, it's just where we wanna put it. What happens is you need it in the plan to help developers know where they're going. We know where we're going when we're talking about
And
projects.
it's flexible, correct? So if someone buys that whole property and they decide to put a big subdivision there, I don't know, whatever. But our plans are flexible based on what the future brings in with development.
Right, so with the Canterbury one, what our plan says is, we want a connection. We wanna connect 57 to Woodcrest via Canterbury.
Okay,
Might move south, might move north a little bit. We also need that in the plan, because if there ever is the dollars of the, road dollars for emergency services, to improve emergency service access, we have it in a plan, and we can then go for the funding. All right,
So
so
what an official. Oh, it's a banner day. Ah. Well, my horrible, terrible, no good, rotten day just really got better.
Run, run.
Oh. Okay, so an official map with roads. And if you want to, we want to call this Canterbury. And we'll put Woodcrest over here. And so we want a connection here, but we don't own this property over here. Okay? What, if this property sells, somebody could put an access point right here in the middle of it, and it could go like that. It could zigzag and go there. All it is making sure that the access point, unless the village wants to build the road themselves, correct? So it's not set in stone what's on the official road map. It's that point that connection point that we're concerned about.
It may have been when you were off the plan commission, that there was a very heated discussion about ghost roads, and people that wanted all taken off, and there was a big misunderstanding about it, because they thought, oh, you're gonna put this road in my property, so. That's something that we had to push back on pretty hard and say, no, they're just where we would like to have it.
So your understanding is correct, that it's just to get it on there, so we know we want one in that area. How it ends up happening, that has to be negotiated.
And then at that time, we'll have to budget for that.
Not necessarily. The village usually is not in the business of building roads. Developers
okay,
are
as-
in the business of building roads.
In this
Not
case,
saying that we might not build a couple.
yeah, I was gonna say, in this case, let's say that property is never developed. And Chris really needs to get those fire trucks out to 57. We would, just like we talked about earlier, is try and negotiate with the owner. Give him the unit and move into the road. Not saying we always would, I'm just saying that's. anyway. Okay, so we all agree Canterbury needs to go over to Woodcrest? Yes. All right. Claflin Lane extended. So, you read the staff report on that. And
One or the other. We don't need both, and I don't think Claflin is our connection.
I think my argument for putting it in there, leaving it in there, is if we ever are able to get a grant, there's no way I mean, from what you've said, Julie, we've got no chance of it if it's not on a plan shown. And like right now, if we wanted to get that, I don't think it's particularly likely at this point, but just to have it there as an option.
I'd rather get a grant on another road. I mean, if we built that road, I mean, one of the older, not the oldest, Patrice, neighborhoods in the village is Maple.
Right.
And by putting in that road, now you're getting rid of another small family home.
I don't, so the one house, that doesn't resonate with me, but the division of the older neighborhood, that does. Because you would make it, you disconnect it. If you wrote in, you disconnect it from other.
But Julie also said that she would like to get more footage from the other property as well. Which would basically put a road right out the guy's window.
yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, the road would go straight at one angle in the perfect world. But to do
I
that.
mean, there's a
you
lot
need
of
to buy
village
other-
roads that are offset, that are not at 90-degree angles.
Yeah.
Denise, what property would this go through?
So this is Corey and Haley
Haley
Diltz's
Diltz.
property.
Is that the old Peterson house?
Yeah, Danny
Yeah.
Peterson. Mhm.
So what do you want to do with that one?
No. Is my opinion.
I agree.
I agree.
The Claflin Lane, you don't want to.
I don't know, we only have 3, that's not that's
Okay.
Mitch, what do you think?
not a majority yet.
I would say probably no.
Ron? Ron? Yes, no, do you want it on the map? Do you not want it on the map?
I'd leave it on the map.
Okay. Nate wants to leave it on the map. Marge?
On the map.
So
4-3, not on the map.
Yeah.
Wow, we haven't had a split like that in a long time.
All right, so then we go to Applewood Extended. You can't really, in my opinion, you can't really discuss this without discussing a bunch of other stuff too. So Applewood Extended, I believe it should be extended a certain distance, yet to be determined. I think that, you know, as it goes past Hidden Maples, it is paved there. I do think it makes sense for the village to acquire that stretch. Just for maintenance purposes, so to speak, it's our road, we can maintain it.
What?
It can't be closed off.
You told me the exact opposite on the phone.
This one is right next to Hidden Maples right here.
Yeah.
No, so Hidden Maples. So Hidden Maples has a stretch of land right next to them or to the west of them. And it's that one, that section is built. That one we should try and acquire. If they're willing to give that to us, we should try and acquire that. Because that stretch going north-south would help us if we ever need to extend that road. Hidden Maples also asked us if we would be interested in the other lots in the subdivision. And those are the ones where the engineer was saying, you know, these are really narrow roads. In order to get the right of way you need, that road would have to be right up to their doorstep. They weren't built to village standards. Those we would not want to take as village roads.
I thought you told me that we didn't want to inherit any roads that were once private that have not been built to village standard because the entities that currently own them just don't want the maintenance anymore, and probably because they're talking about, you know, having to resurface hundreds of feet of road, but they wanted to do it on the cheap to begin with. And
Well, you're paraphrasing that, so just so people know, it's yes, the comment that I made is when people, I've seen this all my life, that people will build a development with private roads and they like that privacy, but there comes a time where those roads are difficult to maintain. Unless you have to resurface them, it's very expensive. A lot of times they'll ask the municipality if they'll take over the road. Municipality typically says no, because it's not built to road standards and you're inheriting a big problem. I do believe with the interior roads on Hidden Maples, that's the case, because you're getting very skinny, narrow roads that don't meet our standards. As far as the stretch on the west side that's adjacent to it, that one is, that right of way is to road standards. Yes, so I'm sorry if there's any confusion on when we were talking about that.
lots of confusion.
Okay, that right of way is to village standards, the right of way is.
Okay.
So, and it is a key piece if you ever need to extend west to Woodcrest, and that's where, so let's just put that thought on hold a second, okay? About extending Applewood south past Hidden Maples. Let's talk about the Rachel Stolenwork access, I'll call it that. That's that utility easement that goes out to Highway 57. That's on the north side of the proposed aquatic center. That's been on the plans for years. The reality is that's just a utility easement. And the easement is so narrow, it's not like you could ever use it for through traffic going from 57 over to Woodcrest. Unless you, part of the Moses property. That easement right now is it's wide enough for a limited access road, meaning to get to like Stoneworks property or maybe the lot after that. It's, those narrow right of ways are not meant to carry traffic a thoroughfare. So if you had Moses easement, then you could be looking at it. Moses property has a house on it. We don't know what they want to do with it. We also don't know if there's a better location in that area for an east-west road. So I think that, in my opinion, again, that should just be an open-ended thing where the village recognizes eventually they will need an east-west road connecting Highway 57 to Woodcrest. The location at this current time is unknown. Rather
Yeah,
than-
because I don't think it's next to Rachel's property. I mean, we've just gone round and round. I don't think it's a good access point. The easement isn't wide enough. We have to work on something else. What that is, I don't know.
I drove out there and I've looked at it many, many times, but I looked at it a little closer and in my mind, the road kind of curves there and it's, I don't know, I'm not a traffic engineer, but that's concerning to me to have a road on that curve. Now, the DOT said if there is a road there, there's gonna be a turnoff lane to make sure those concerns are addressed. But why would you go through that for a limited access road? So I think you just note in the plan that we recognize the need for an east-west road, we just, location to be determined as land becomes available, and leave it at that. Are you guys okay with that?
Yes. Yep.
Can you just comment on that?
Of course.
Thank you. Predating me, even Dick Burris, I sat in the meeting wherever we were, I don't remember, but that access right there has been on the forefront of fire and EMS since before I was here. Somehow we have to develop, and there's two keys, right? A second way in and out the scan, and not just scan, but now you have hidden Maples. If you look at the population that lives in that one way in, one way out, it represents about a fourth of it. As far as year-round population, one way in, one way out. Now we've got a clinic, a lot more traffic, again, one way in, one way out. So we really need to talk about alternative access to that area, whether it's through the other road that you talked about, trying to come in from Woodcrest or not. Ideally, it's off of the highway some way, so that if we have to do something and move large amounts of people out of Scan, we can do that. Because if there is an event going on there, we've probably got the other way blocked. And then the other thing that plays into all this is we have to have another way around the hill. It has happened, not every year, but it has happened multiple times where the hill is completely blocked and there is no way down the hill. Okay. And we've got to seriously talk about a good way around the hill. And I know, I appreciate what Nita's saying, but that road has to be built to handle semi-truck traffic for an indeterminate amount of time, right? We closed the hill for multiple hours. We've got to talk seriously about a better way around it. And in no disrespect to Nate, it needs to be something better than a simple 2-lane road.
Yeah, and right now that one by Solonwork, there's no way you'd get that.
No, you'd have to do a taking. Absolutely, you would have to take Dudley's property or Moses' property, somebody's property would have to fall, without a doubt. And I'm just saying. In the
You're
big
not
picture,
advocating for that.
I'm not
Right.
advocating for that.
Right.
I'm saying, from your position, here's the two things that I think you need to think about.
Well,
And future planning,
Right.
right? Moses is sell their house or give it to you or burn it down, buy the property, throw a road. I'm just saying, you need to have it on your radar.
so that's the type of stuff that we'll include in a plan.
Yep.
So these are the reasons why.
Right, but you have to
Locations
have that
unknown.
road. You have to say, we want a connector here somewhere. Needs to get to Woodcrest somehow. Or, well, at one point in time, she was willing to give them property to connect. And I was the mediator, I went between her and the village, and at that time, that was turned down. Because it was too expensive. She was willing to give them the property to do that.
You break my heart.
Hear that?
Hindsight 2022.
Well, and that's why we need to plan and we need to think about it, right?
Right.
And we need to make sure that what we plan for meets our needs.
Right.
Like planning for a small road isn't gonna do it if what we need is a large road for evacuation.
No, I mean, in the perfect world, you would put a connector from the highway to Plateau. That should line up down that fence line. That is, you know, in a planner's world, that's where we go.
Yeah.
And that's what she was willing to give, that easement lining up with Plateau. Because she didn't want to have it go through an extension of Canterbury, she didn't want to have it come up off of Maple. Because she believes that that's not a viable or a stable alternative. So she was saying, look, if we're gonna do this, let's do this right, let's tie it in and do it right, you know. And at the time, didn't do anything. Lack of funding, build a road, put in the infrastructure, because it would have been, even though she was giving the property, it still would have been incredibly expensive venture. That's a half a mile road.
And now what we're finding is the property ends up being almost more than the road itself.
Yeah, now. Right,
Do we all support that or agree with that philosophy or position that Chris just presented? Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the next thing that was discussed, you know, was if you put that road in by Stollenworth, you have to close off Orchard. Well, if you're not putting in the road by Stollenworth, and again, it doesn't say you are or you're not, we just say, we know we need something here. Then you shouldn't have to close off Orchard.
they're gonna, my understanding is they're gonna make you close Orchard if you make any kind of connection to the highway.
Well, and we asked them for clarification on that. So they said that if that road that's currently planned on the map goes through, we have to close off Orchard.
Okay.
If that road, so the question to the DOT was, well, what if that road is further north? I don't know, just on somebody else's property, like Carol's or that Brown building, or there's a utility there, what if it goes somewhere
Sauter's
else? Yeah.
property.
And they never got back to us, and we gave them 2 months. So,
My understanding historically was that anything south of Country Walk tied in was going to have to close Orchard, and that the only reason Cherrywood got there is because they had goofed up and given previous permission, so they couldn't deny it now.
Really? The
Boy,
DOT goofed up?
Yeah, oh, yeah. They had previously allowed Cherrywood. If you tried to put Cherrywood in today, they wouldn't allow. But you had previous permission. And I could be wrong, but that's. no. And it has to do with, my opinion, it has to do with speed limits, right? Because
Which we're having a traffic study, they're doing that on
if you
that
cross the speed
stretch.
limit, that would be- First of all, I support closing the Orchard. I'm fine with that. Please close it. My opinion, right? And for a whole host of reasons, but if it allows us to get a tie to Woodcrest, if it allows us to have a second access to stand, close it. As somebody who lives on that chunk of Orchard, I'd love to have you close it just based on the traffic and the speed that they go down about. You know, and I'm a good friend with Paula, and we talked about, you know, a road through her property and my property, and her property is already chopped up pretty bad because it's pie shaped, right? And she lost a bunch of highway. But I'm going down that road, so I'll be glad for that.
So what is the position on closing off Orchard Road?
So Chris knows I have a different opinion of him. I think he has many, many valid points on why we should close it off. I just, I think from a planning perspective, whether it's 25 years, 50 years, you know, when some of us might not still be around here or whatever, that would be bad planning. And Chris said, well, then you open it back up again.
I guess my point is, if you have to make a choice between closing Orchard and tying the highway to Woodcrest, and that's really the choice you're making, what do you choose? I'm not saying close it today, I'm saying Close it if there's a viable opportunity, time to stand and work back with track. Close. The juice is worth the squeeze of that. To me, and living on it, the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah, I mean, we have to look at how, with smart growth, remember we did those smart growth plans? You don't hop, skip, jump development, you slowly develop as you go along. So if you're developing from, you know, downtown out towards the south end of town, you're gonna start at that north end, you can slowly develop south. At that point, you're gonna need a road to go through. You're not gonna get, probably not gonna get approval for that road unless you close off Orchard. So it is something, it's probably gonna have to close off at some, I mean, that's what we're being told already. We just don't know. You know, our last question we posed to the DOT was, at what point do you not have to close off Orchard? Is it if we go a half mile, a quarter mile, what is it? And that's the answer we did not get.
It. You don't have these currently drawn on your map, but I have the GIS pulled up. And if you go down Woodcrest, from ZZ or Maple, and you have the first, I don't know, were those 40s? Give or take. So Barbara has the first 40. I think Barbara owns the second 40. Hello, okay, then we have a Stephen Carle owns the
Just
third,
built a house on it.
okay. And then we have Mary Neville Trust. With a couple of houses that very small lots on Woodcrest. So there's 3 owners in those 40s, basically. That would go from Maple to Flint Ridge. Have we considered just throwing spaghetti at the wall and putting a connection point on each one of those parcels?
Do you mean going across both of Barbara's 40s over to 57?
Yeah, so it's these 4. You know, Trudy Jishke lives here. I don't know who's that, but that's 2 little lots carved out of that 40. I mean, somewhere from here is where we're trying to go. So why wouldn't we try to?
Oh, I understand, funnel them over to Orchard instead of closing Orchard off. So the 2 Barbara Halls would probably just go east-west to the highway or down this road. And then Carly, you can't do, he's got a house there, but there is another 20 there and then there's another.
Oh, right,
40,
so
but
if he's
it could go-
divided this, that doesn't mean.
Yeah,
you
you would
know.
have to go over to Orchard and then connect to the highway via Orchard or going further south. So if I understand you correctly, Denise, you're not saying you'd go from Woodcrest to straight west of 57. You
Not
would go
necessarily.
Woodcrest to Orchard and then traffic would probably go east, north.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you want me to show you? Okay. I mean, if we don't know when something's going to happen, why wouldn't we just, and if we're taking all the other roads off, which I don't know quite how I feel about, but that's a different conversation. Why wouldn't we just kind of make some connections on those 4 lots? And so at least in the future, somebody knows there
Say
isn't,
The 240s and the 220s.
well, and then that,
340s into, or
Oh,
the
along the
Mary
tour.
Neville,
yeah,
and then that one.
So the one that's an L around Jiski's.
Yeah. Very thick L, yeah. I mean, I'm just asking the question. Yeah,
Is this for emergency purposes or for development?
the thing is if you do it for emergency purposes, there will be development.
But it's to guarantee attachment point.
Yeah.
That's all you're really doing.
Right,
Personally, as a property owner who has had multiple of those with my property, I really don't like it because if I want to sell or she wants to sell, now whether it really doesn't mean anything, but it really does. It carries a connotation that I'm gonna lose half my property because you're gonna put a road through it. Right, and that's what drove Paula Hadeen to call me, is she said, you know, do you understand that they want to put a road through our property down our fence line, and you're gonna lose property, and lose property? And I know it doesn't necessarily mean that, but to arbitrarily stick a bunch of roads through all those 40s, while it is hugely important to have that connection, I think it.
the PR,
I think you as a committee owe it to the community to be a little more diligent than
Okay.
just drawing roads in.
okay. I was just throwing it out there.
To me, there's two current obvious connection points. One is at the end of Villa Drive, and one is at the end of Canterbury. I think both of those already dead end into the whole property, and those would make good connection points to Ridgecrest. Yes, the current roads would need significant upgrades to support any kind of viable traffic. But the Villa Drive one then could line up like you're talking about, come through the current Traver Clinic. Yeah, no, this one right here, right there. Through the Traver Clinic and up to the highway, far enough away that maybe Orchard can stay over. But that would be a straight, yes, absolutely, there's quite a grade change there. But it does what you're saying, it lines up through.
And so if we talk about coming through on Plateau, then Mary, you own a bunch of that property, right? That lines up with Plateau?
Yes.
She would have the 40 to the highway, so plus, 40 plus.
So-
Outside of Braden's property.
Oh, that's right, and that's what we talked about, that she already has a 30-foot easement
North side.
on the north side.
Usually you come in and then cut up and then tie into the easement, so she didn't use property twice. Yeah. Right?
Right.
On top of that, used to be all that, and that's just, right, that's just too.
So. Okay. So we need another way around the hill was number one, and number two is scanned.
Scanned, and if it can be done, if that can be done on one road, great, but
And then make sure it's designed for someone,
what's that?
and then make sure it's
Yeah,
designed
it needs
for,
to be designed to handle the highway traffic for a half a day and. Right?
Okay, so,
I would just, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Chris, but if we're gonna detour, we're gonna detour them down. You have a detour them down Old Stage. You're talking about that long of detour,
Down Old Stage 2.
down Old Stage, keep going down Old Stage.
And then Woodcrest back into the village. Again, none of those roads are built to support any of what we're talking about.
Kind of comes back to the, not to step into that conversation, but then it's also beyond the village, then it's easy.
I'm not saying that we need to do this today, tomorrow, or even next year. I'm saying that you're planning, failure to plan is planning to fail. Right, so you need to plan. There isn't gonna be less people, there isn't gonna be less traffic, there isn't gonna be less sunlight, there aren't gonna be less wrecks on the hill. I'm not saying it even has to be this decade, but you are setting the tone for the next 10 years, right? That's what this is your next 10
oh, I
years.
hope we're looking farther than that.
20 years, so this is the next 20-year look. What does that look like? Right, I'm not advocating you budget for any of this.
Yeah, we just use it for planning purposes and then, of course, future land use maps, zoning maps, et cetera, because
It's like the conversation at the fire station, right? There, you know, we talked about it at the property that you bought, right? Again, I'm not advocating for a new fire station, but failure plan is planning to fail. You have to have, you know, the reason we wound up here is because nobody planned for it. Right? This was not the ideal location. This was about our fourth choice. But at the time, nobody had planned.
Hmm.
Denise has to leave around 8.
Yep.
So let's keep moving so we can get everything except this little piece, okay? So I think it's easier if we can chip away all these little things we have to do and come back and visit that. People can think more about it, brainstorm on it. Are you okay with that?
Okay.
So let's move on then to the Judith Blazer Drive, extending Judith Blazer Drive to Cherrywood.
I don't like it. We're,
Why?
because we're encircling children in streets in every direction. I mean, if anything, you could have that be a permeable barrier where the cul-de-sac is right now. And have buffers there, so you don't have cars going down there, but maybe you have it so you can come in from the south and come back out the south, but not as a through road. There's gonna be a lot of kids in that area, and cars and kids don't mix well.
So this is a road that our outdoor recreation transportation committee had recommended.
Mhm.
And I believe the thought was all that residential development there does not have to go to Cherrywood to connect to the highway to go back into uptown.
Did you catch what I said though? I'm saying not that we don't, so I guess I'm opposed for it as a through road. But if you make it a permeable road, so you don't have cars going through there, you're gonna achieve what the outdoor rec plan was talking about, what the outdoor rec committee was talking about. So you can have people and bikes go through there, but keep the cars off there. Because it's going to end up being a shortcut and it's a straight shot that I guess I don't see what it would do for vehicular traffic other than ensure that the kids are encircled by cars.
So right now, if all the residential on Northwoods, Ava Hope, those apartments, let's just say they want to go to the childcare center. They're gonna go down Cherrywood onto the highway. Now, we've got all this more traffic on Highway 57. And then they're gonna turn left on Country Walk Drive, come down Judith Blazer. If Judith Blazer goes through, you're eliminating a highway connection, which is a safety factor. Right? They don't even have to go out to Highway 57 to get either to the childcare, to the grocery store, or wherever. You're totally avoiding Highway 57 by putting in a couple 100-foot wide road.
Nate, do you have the GIS map up?
In a different window, yeah.
Okay.
That could be
So what
avoided
is
if
the
they
length
took Cherrywood,
from where
Cherrywood in.
roughly Julie has drawn the yellow line,
Yeah. It wouldn't be.
which actually it would just be the width of the building. What I'm wondering is, how many feet is this? And then you would have to walk in. I'm wondering, could there be enough room, if it's not a two-way street, to have some parking for drop off here? And then you just turn around and go back out. But you can't go all the way through trying to address your point.
Cul-de-sac in from the south.
Yeah,
Yeah, figure out where to place that cul-de-sac to get it so people can, because then you would give people access to the childcare center. Or the other thing you
and,
said there. that-
right, and they would get some additional parking. Although is this village owned property? Where the yellow is?
250
Well, part of it is.
250 from the center of Cherrywood to the center of the current turnaround up above, so
Okay.
250 or less.
And compromise, I don't know, I think I understand you want traffic to move. I also understand that maybe it shouldn't move so well there.
Yeah, I would hate to see through traffic through there.
I'm with you.
Go ahead, Matt.
I think she just said I'm with you.
Oh, that's that.
How about if you're coming down from the north and you're coming from the south and there's just not that connection? Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about, where they both come down? the
Yeah,
cul-de-sac?
Actually connected,
They
we'll
don't
put
connect.
bollards there so you don't make it permeable for vehicles. Have it so pedestrians and bikes can
Yeah.
go through there.
But the vehicle traffic can't connect.
Mhm. And then we have some leeways where we put that, I don't think we can put that. Start putting the driveways that are, well, maybe we could just put it north where that driveway is.
I mean, so then you're building, you know, kind of parking spaces and an exit, which is probably you know, similar to the width of the road,
Mhm.
right?
Okay, do we agree with that? Come in from both angles? Yes. No vehicle traffic goes through, but allow for pedestrian access through there.
Do you think that's crazy? Do you think that's a good idea?
I haven't thought about it much, to be honest with you. I was just going off of, when I first got here, there was discussion about putting that road through. And so that was just always in the back of my mind that that's what the committee had wanted. I wouldn't want to talk about driveways, parking, et cetera, for the childcare center. I think you need to think more about what makes sense.
But the reason that I'm talking about parking would have to be built is because if there are people from Ava Hope and Cherrywood, you know, if we give them this opportunity to pull in here, they need to park their car to walk their child
way,
in the
yes.
front door.
That way, yeah.
Yeah. That's the only reason I'm talking about parking.
Yeah. So. That makes a lot of sense for everybody going to childcare. I guess I would say, what about all the other people in that quadrant? The
They're
other ones
gonna go
just
to the
go to the
grocery?
highway?
Yeah, they go into the highway, or they choose the safer option and they go by foot, they go by bike. They go by something else.
Laura was saying they go down.
They go Cherrywood, yeah, right,
She was saying they go down.
Cherrywood to Kessel.
Sure, with the Kessel.
So Kessel may need, at some point, Kessel may need more improvements if it's gonna be hauling more traffic.
We've got a lot of undeveloped land in there too, so we don't know exactly what's gonna happen in there.
Okay. The other notes I had in here was, I think we just need to, in the plan, not designate a route, but make it very clear that, in my mind, there should be access from ZZ north to the wastewater treatment plant. Because right now, that wastewater treatment traffic is going through Scandia, it's going down Woodcrest. There was talk about it going through Wiltie. You have people walking, you have people biking, we have more and more people walking and biking because we're trying to become a walkable community. But yeah, you have these big pumper trucks. There almost should be a direct route into the treatment plant. And it should be on a road that is designed for large vehicles. To me, that's ZZ. There should be a way to get from ZZ right into the treatment plant. Which goes across property in Town of Liberty Grove, none of which I'm aware of is for sale, but I think it needs to be put on the map. And then I think we also need to just leave it open that there will be roads need on Lagerquist. I don't know if there will or not. We haven't planned that out yet, but I think we need to put it in a plan that realistically there might be. I mean, you're looking at 40 acres on Lagerquist, you're gonna need roads at some point. Whether the east half is developed with homes, maybe it's developed with an institutional use or something. Maybe it's so if the fire department is there so they can get through there. I think that it'd be not wise to say at this point, there's not gonna be any roads. I think we should say there probably will be. Same thing on Wiltsey.
I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing either. It's just an inevitability, as Chris said, is growth. It's very likely at some point, it's almost inevitable at some point, maybe not in my lifetime even, but that there will be growth beyond Lagerquist. And at that point, we should set ourselves up so we're not dealing with what we are right now with trying to get something connected to Plateau. So if we do set it now before there's something there,
We can
Yeah.
make sure that your roads need to hit the back corners of that property. Not just dead end within.
You know, and you have to show them on Wiltsey too.
Mhm.
And you know,
So
there's.
what I think would be really helpful. I mean, you have zeroed in, you know, so we could see closer, you know, what you were proposing. I think we need
A bigger map.
a bigger map, just showing, you know, black and white, not all the topo and everything else
Sure.
like that, where.
So what, if we're far enough, if we can agree to what, everything tonight except for that one area that we're, you know, that orchard connection, that whole mess there. What I can then have Bay Lake do is make the map based off of our conversation. The map has to be made for the plan. We just don't want to pay for it twice. So if we can agree, this is the direction we're going, I'll have them make a map on what we've discussed. Then it's easy to just add a line or take a line off. But we at least
Okay.
have this good direction here. Are we okay with that? Yeah. And then that will also help with our infrastructure planning, utility planning. Where do you plan on having development? Well, that's where you need to start thinking about maybe running your utility infrastructure. Stuff like that. I appreciate Chris's input. Yes, Chris, we do appreciate Chris's input.
Very much.
So I don't quite understand. I've attached the previous roadmap. Green is what we had previously planned. I do not see a need for the other roads planned on that map and recommend that they be removed. So,
No, keep going.
so what ones are you asking to be removed?
So
Cause
on,
it said the green is what we previously,
so on the official map, you were showing a road extending Sunnyside over to Meadow. And then you had one extending Meadow South, which is actually a trail. We actually have a trail there. We don't, that's a 15-foot wide easement. It's not even wide enough for a road. You can no longer put a road there because you have a gas station on one side, if I remember right. We just approved development on one side of it, and then the other side, I think, is, the gas station. Mobile. And yeah, it just got too developed. You can't. So and if that road would go back. That's private land. That's more of a conservation area. I just don't see that area being developed.
so you're saying every single one of these you want to take off?
And put on what we talk about. Like this would come off. You can't realistically get it in there anymore.
This comes off?
This green is.
No, this is gonna have a
I
bubble
think
around
this
it
should
saying,
stay.
yep, it's gonna have a bubble saying, we know we want an east-west road in this area. And this, she's referring to the area connecting Orchard to Woodcrest, which we said is the one area we'll come back and visit, so.
Why would we take this out from Ava Hope to Fieldcrest?
From Ava to Fieldcrest, let me look at that one again. Ava. Wish I had the air photo.
Did that go through like the history center or something? There was
Yeah, I
some
have to,
easement over there.
let me look at that one and I'll report back on that one. There was a reason why that one didn't make sense to go through anymore. But yeah, I just, you know, where that trail is, that goes back to that Overby property. I think it makes sense that that will someday be a trail, but I don't think you're gonna see that as a road then. So let's continue that at the next meeting then. If everyone's okay with that, I'll have Bay Lake give us an updated map.
Nate, take over,
All right,
please.
didn't have mine.
Are you done with roads?
Yeah.
Yeah. On to.
Thank you for
Permit
your
review.
input.
So the committee had asked for the permit log, and so I had Janelle go through and do the first 6, just so you could see what was issued. The comment was, we just want to know what's being issued. So that's in there, and we'll try to do monthly, not quarterly, try not to make it 6 months at a time, because I know you see activity, you want to know what's going on.
Okay. Is that pretty typical since you've been here, Julie? Is that how many permits are coming through, or is that busy, not busy?
You know, I'd have to go back and look at it, Nate. Interestingly, I did summarize this for the annual report, the last annual reports, right, or last year's, to see what it is, because I was looking at houses. Are we seeing more houses, fewer houses? What type of activity are we seeing? I'd have to go back and compare that. There wasn't many houses this year. I remember more houses last year.
Yeah, I guess.
The houses we're seeing now are the big homes on Bay Shore Drive being torn down and rebuilt. Those are, I think I'm on my 2nd or 3rd one this year that I'm working on.
All right. Items to be placed on a future agenda or for the committee. Do we have anything coming out of this? I mean, we're revisiting the roads.
Revisiting the roads, you know, if we have room at the next one, I'd like to go through some of the comp plan stuff. Looking at goals, objectives, that type of stuff, just to see what we want to change. Because we do have to start chipping away at that.
I guess I want to remind that it's asked, I'll do the 3rd time I've asked, but auxiliary dwelling units on discussion.
So I have a list of, yes, so we did talk about me doing a bunch of amendments. A bunch of them. We talked about open green space, which you're gonna get back to me. You're gonna look at that spreadsheet and get back to me. We talked about auxiliary. We talked about a whole bunch of amendments. And the committee said, Julie, we don't need it right now. So, but it's on the list, Nate. And to be honest with you, with everything, Natasha leaving, it's further down the list. But I've got great ideas on that, you know.
If it's on the list and it's still just, I'm gonna keep reminding you 3
Yep.
months from now, and you'll tell me it's
I
still on the
actually
list, and I
have
accept that's a viable answer from you, Julie.
I
just wanna
actually
make
have
sure.
a hand and list. So it has to be typed.
The only time I'll get upset or really boisterous about it, if they say, nope, I took that off the list, we're not thinking about it. So. if it's
No,
on the
because it's some great, there's some easy things we as a community can do to improve housing. And we need to look at those. It's just a matter of getting through some of the projects we have right now.
Anybody else have anything? Our next meeting is July 23rd, 5:30 here. Motion to adjourn would be in order then.
Second?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Motion by Shampo,
Second.
second by Kane. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Around this weekend?
Is the fiber optic still, on